Yeah, sorry, Stephen, Elizabeth, I'm looking through my old emails and I've got nothing from that date. So maybe I accidentally deleted it. I don't know. Funny. Steve, if you could resend it, appreciate it.
Steve, do you want me to do it? Because I have it up right here. I can just forward the email.
I think his mic was muted. I think he said yes.
Okay, I'll just do it. I'll just do it, Brian. It's okay.
You're there. Thanks, Elizabeth.
Anybody else that would like to join our panelists, please raise your Zoom hand and I will bring you in.
Jeff, somebody just wrote that the chat is disabled. Yeah, I see. Well, I was able to do something. But I think the
Oh, is the chat not working again?
I will say that last month I wasn't as a panelist and the chat was disabled and you could only work with the question and answer, but nobody was monitoring that. So
yeah.
By the way, at the end of the hour, if we run out of questions, I might have an interesting thing to show everybody.
Okay, I changed the chat so that it should be everybody now. It's for some reason chat comes in as disabled and I have to go and reset it for everybody.
Hey,
So
Jim
now-
K, can you read your email from me from probably yesterday?
We should really talk and I'll give you a call.
All right, give me a heads up because I don't know where my phone is. It's probably in the car. I don't have a tendency to bring it in, so.
Okay, well, yeah,
Oh.
we can go over all those topics and see what's going on.
What? It should be a yes or no.
Yeah.
It's a yes or no, Jim.
Okay,
Clearly it's not, but okay.
I could see how this is going to go for nominations. Oh, Lord. Okay, I'm going to get Digital Forum started. It's 10:01. Welcome everybody for coming this morning. I know it's hard to come on a day where we're probably going to have the nicest day of fall happening right now. I know it's getting close to 60 degrees and it's supposed to be in the mid 70s. So if there's anybody that would like to join the panel, all we ask is that you have good audio and video, mainly audio. And we'd love to have your knowledge on the panel. As you can see, we have a small panel this morning. We do have a great second hour with Vanelli from Skylum, talking about Luminar Neo and how that works. And he'll be joining us at 11 o'clock. But we've got the first hour. We're open to general questions. So if there's anybody that has any general questions, please put them either in the chat or in the Q&A. And we'll get started with that.
Jeff, is the Skylum speaker from the US or is he going to be sleepy?
No, he's from the US. I believe he's from the East Coast.
Florida.
Is
Yeah,
he
he's
Florida now?
Yeah,
Okay.
but
At
he
one
was East
time
Coast. You're right. Yep.
Yeah, okay. I think I ran into once or twice at Photoshop World when Photoshop World was meeting in person about 5 or 10 years, probably 10 years ago. So I know who he is. That's about it. So yeah. I've sent him links, so he hopefully will be joining us.
I talked to him yesterday. He says he'll be here.
Yep. Yep. Then he sent me an email saying he hadn't gotten the link yet, and I'd already sent him 2 links. So,
Okay.
so hopefully, I should probably check my emails periodically just to make sure. But yeah. So I did have an email from Roger Krill on a question that I'll bring up to everybody, and maybe somebody has a better idea. He needed to sort photos by maker's name in Lightroom, and he was wondering how. I don't know if anybody here has an idea on that. Otherwise,
Do the photos that he has, are they already have some indication of which makers made them?
yeah, he has some way that he knows which maker made them. So, and I'll share my screen with my Lightroom.
I would then in that case, if you could just sort first by finding that maker and making a album, a collection down at the bottom, and drag all of them into that collection. So it won't move them from the original places where they live, but then you'll have a collection with that person's name. And you could do that with each person. And then you would have all these collections that would have everybody as different photographers. You would have all of those available to you.
Yeah.
I think he's looking for an auto sort by name, I think.
Yeah. And there you do have the sort by, normal default is capture time. Now, I was going through that, and unfortunately, they don't have all the, and I'm not sure if you can add more of these different sorting options. But the easiest would be sort by file name and then put the person's name in the file.
What is that? What's under that custom order?
Well, the custom order is you drag it in the order that you want. So when you go to custom order, the one that I was looking for, and I can't remember if you can add to this list or not, is I do a lot of times put it in the metadata under either the photographer name or under the title. And then if you could sort by title, that would have fixed it. But the best I can come up with is put their name in the file name, and then you could sort it by that. But that's still somewhat as much manual as what Jim was mentioning as creating albums.
The other possibility is to just go up to all photography, or no, whatever it says, something like that, or whatever your library is when you're in. Well, actually, there's several ways to get there, but then you could do a find. And when you're in find, again, I don't know what, since you said he could find a way to figure out which people are there. Once you're in find, you can go to text. And if you go over to text and click on that, then you could type in any of the fields that he used for searching, and all of those photos would show up. Then again, it's real easy to just say select all for all of those photos that you get and drag them into one of your collections, and they would all be there at one place.
Yeah.
Yeah, I use keywording a lot, and if he could put the names of the photographer or the maker in keywords, I was looking to see if there's any way to sort on that without the find. Lightroom, they're talking about changing that text, that find that you were just talking about. They're talking about saving that. They were on one of their surveys. They were saying, would we like it better if you could actually save that filter? And so then you could save it and real quick sort that way.
Yeah, I was hoping that just, if they just added some of the other fields in here that you can work with, it would be so much better. But I couldn't think of a way. Excuse me a second. I have a cat on my computer desk. And he likes to push buttons while he's here. Yeah, the easiest that I could think of would be if you put their file name in, their name in the file name, you could sort it automatically that way. So, Roger, you got a couple of ideas. You can try to play around with some of that.
Also remember, when you build a collection, you can build a smart collection. Whoops, sorry, I pulled this off. So in that smart collection, if there was a field that you wanted something to show up in, you could automatically have it sort to that folder every time that thing occurs. So if again you did put somebody's name in, or you're sorting by some other criteria, those photos would automatically move to that folder or this collection that you've set up. If you have it as a smart collection, you'd never have to keep adding them. It would know to add them automatically.
Yeah. I think what he's trying to do is at our club meetings, we have these different monthly challenges, and he's trying to, I think, get them all sorted together in a row so that it's easier for him to do the slideshow. So, because that's generally the biggest problem. But yeah, doing a collection is probably might be the simplest way, other than to manually do it, add your names in. So, yeah, it's a tricky one.
What I've been doing on the ones that I've had, when people have been submitting to me, is putting them in a folder underneath the date of the maker's name, and they can submit 2 or 3 photos. So each of the folders might have 2 or 3 photos in it. And then I take all of them and put them in a collection of the ones that I want to be in the slideshow.
Yeah, I think that's sort of what he's doing, because I know he creates the slideshow in Lightroom. It's just, I think he's looking for a simpler way to get them organized.
He wants an automated way.
Yeah. And right now, I don't think there's that much, other than you still have to type in the name into the file name. That would be the simplest. And maybe that's what we just start asking our members to do when they send it, is put their name first.
That's what I was just gonna say. Put a naming standard on them going forward.
Yeah. So.
What about other, there's a program called Mechanic, or that you've used in the past?
Yeah.
Does that have some?
That has more
features,
sorting
maybe?
capabilities, but that program has gotten to be very expensive. It's couple $100 each year, and I dropped it a long time ago because it just got too expensive to update, and they went to subscription as well. So
There you go.
yeah, everybody's going to subscription. Not Luminar yet, I don't think, but
They are.
they're getting close.
It is. No, it's a subscription now.
Is it subscription now?
Yeah, you can also just buy, I'm sure V will go over all this, but you can buy the software, and then you can buy what they're calling their new extensions, like focus stacking and HDR merge and noiseless
Oh, okay.
AI. Or you can just do a subscription and pay an annual fee. I think now that the launch is over, it's going to be like $85 a year. And then you get all the updates to Neo, and you get all of the extensions as they come out.
Oh, okay. Well, it'll be good to, I don't understand how Neo all works, so
That's pretty much
it'll
all
be
I use.
interesting
So
to hear about it.
Hey, this isn't a question, but I'd like to comment on Topaz Photo AI.
Sure.
When we were coming back from the UP, I was in a car with Ken, and he was listening to Jason Odell, that podcast that he does with the other guy. And he mentioned, he was talking about Topaz Photo AI. And they're really talking it up about it. It was really, they thought it was an amazing piece of software as a plugin. You could use it with, I use it with Lightroom, but it's got 3 features. It's got 3 features built into one plugin. It's got denoise, it's got sharpen, and it's got upscale. And it's amazing. So it combines, what has been like in 3 different plugins, and it's all there. Listening to their podcast, they talked about it being somewhat slow, But on my machine, which is, 3 years old or so, I mean, I've got some, a good graphics processor in there, but I thought it was relatively fast, and I thought that the results were amazing. It's one thing they cautioned about is with the sharpen, you can over crunch things. And I did one photo when originally I thought it looked really good I was using it with leaves, especially up north, where the trees were shaking, and I got some good results. I mean, it doesn't get rid of all the motion, but certainly does help. There was one picture I thought at the time I was processing looked really good, and I was looking at it again last night and realized that I had over sharpened. It was just too crunchy, and so you have to be a little bit careful. But
I've downloaded the Photo AI. I've been using Sharpen and Denoise for a while now. Sharpen AI and Denoise AI, and I really like the Sharpen. And so I got the Photo AI for free. They told me to go ahead and download it because I owned the others, and I downloaded it and used it a little bit. And we were talking about it at a club meeting at the beginning of the month, and the guys there had been using that Photo AI, and they said, and I kind of agree with this, I haven't used it a lot, but they said that the Photo AI doesn't actually have as many choices and as much flexibility as the actual Sharpen AI and Denoise AI do. But the other product that was in there, I'm not familiar with. What you listed 3 things?
yeah, it was upscale.
Upscale. I'm not familiar with that.
Well, it just it resizes to a larger.
Oh, like
Yeah,
gigapixel.
That would be gigapixel. What it sounds like they're doing is, I think they're going to make the 3 separate programs go away, and I think they're combining it all into one program, which is the Topaz Photo AI. So I would bet in another year or 2, after they've got AI completely worked out, or Photo AI, I think you'll see that they won't be supporting denoise and gigapixel and sharpen.
I hope they bring in all the features, because the denoise has it's the sharpen has a lot of different models and a lot of settings on each model that you can do, and a lot of different ways of looking at.
I would bet that they will. I think it's just taking them longer to integrate it all together, because it sure looks like they're just taking the separate programs and grouping it into one single program to make it easier for everybody to understand. Because I haven't downloaded it and used it yet. I just know about it.
Yeah, you can download, a sample, it's like any other program, and play with it. Of course, you can't save the results, but within Sharpen, they've got 3 modes. They've got standard, lens blur, and motion blur. And I'm not sure what the intent is, how they differ. I mean, I haven't gone in and haven't gone back to Topaz and read the tutorial as to what they recommend when to use each of those 3, but I play around a little bit, and
Maybe
I'm impressed. I think it's a heck of a piece of software. I mean, it's impressed to the point that I actually spent. It was funny because on the way back, I was talking to Ken. I said, I think I'm done with plugins. I've got enough. I mean, what more plugins could I possibly want or need or be willing to buy, even for for $150, which this one was. And then he plays that podcast. And I got home and I'm looking at some, the trees are shaking, the leaves are a little blurry, and I thought, well, what the heck, I'll try it. And 15 minutes later, I put down $150, and it was so.
Yeah, it is a good one.
You think you're done, but you're never done. Darn it! It's
yeah.
And the stuff just keeps getting better and better with AI. It's I don't know.
Yeah, as far as them combining them all into one, I wish they would, because a lot of times I want to do both, and then I go into Sharpen and I also denoise it, and I go into denoise and I also sharpen, and I've been trying to judge which one does the best at both, and it gets a little confusing. But I think
it's worth a try. It's worth a try.
Because you said Sharpen has the motion blur. I think it's denoise then that has about 5 different models inside. But
I bet they might have just picked some of the better models that they have and put it into the photo AI.
Maybe.
We'll
The
have-
algorithms vary between the different models. So
Yeah.
that's what you'll see. They do slightly different things depending on how they're trying to combine certain pixels. But I'll just make one comment if anybody does try them. They have a masking feature within them. And I have found that obviously these programs, they're smart, but they're not that smart. So when you have a blurry background on purpose, many times these programs say, oh, we would like to clean that up. And they will try to take that blurry background and actually try to make sense out of it. And you get weird looking artifacts in those areas. So it's really important that you mask the thing you really want to sharpen. So if it's a bird or it's a person's face or whatever it is you're trying to deal with, you mask that area in, and the program only sharpens that specific area. And it works much better, I think, once you start masking.
Oh, that's interesting, Jim. That's a good tidbit. Thank you. What I've been doing is creating another layer and then sharpening that layer. And then when I get back out of the denoise or whatever, I mask out the background. But that that affects what you're talking about, affects the algorithm.
Correct. And then I think what you'll find is there are a couple of different ways to even mask. There's sort of an automatic mode in masking where you can ask it to look for certain things. But if you just mask it yourself, they give you a brush, you can put it in, then you can say, apply this brush and telling it where to sharpen. Then it will only sharpen that one thing. So again, if it's a bird's eyes that you're trying to sharpen, it will sharpen just that area. It leaves the rest alone. And then you don't get these weird artifacts that you can get in areas that you really don't want them.
That's good information.
Yeah.
So Jim, which program offers the masking on Sharpen?
They all, in Sharpen, at least, I still have the individual programs because I guess I looked at it and I said, look, I've got the two important programs to sharpen and the denoise. I didn't want to.
I'm sorry, you're talking Topaz. You're talking Topaz.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
And I didn't want to spend $150 for the same thing I already have. So I'll wait until they substantially change them. So anyway, when you're in Sharpen, all of the individual programs inside of there allow the masking.
Yeah, I don't see that on AI, on photo AI. I don't see masking there.
Yeah, hopefully they'll bring it into, I would bet they'll bring it into that. That photo AI is just so new yet. It's first version. I know I get it free because I have their whole suite of individual programs. So
as I look at it now, there's two updates available that I haven't downloaded yet.
Yeah.
So.
And I haven't even downloaded the first one yet because I just haven't had time to even think about it. But I do want to take a look at it. And so any of you do play with it, report back and let us know how it's working. And I mean, we need to learn about all these different ones. And I used to buy every one of these. I used to buy the current updates of Luminar and the current updates on One Photo and Topaz. But this stuff is getting expensive, and
Yeah, Topaz has
I'm not doing
though.
commercial work anymore to pay for it.
Topaz has a winner though. I was going through deleting some of my photos from Africa, and I had a wildebeest that it had backlighting that put a rim light around the wildebeests and a whole herd of them, and it was really beautiful, but it was out of focus. And I almost hit the delete key, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just try to see what happens when I sharpen it. So I took it into Topaz Sharpen AI, and I was amazed at how well it did with motion. I think it was motion blur or one of the others. And I did a comparison, put them side by side, and posted it up on Facebook, and got quite a few comments about how well it did. And it saved the photo.
Now,
Maybe-
again, I can only comment on the standalone program for sharpening, but there is a mode in there where you can have it show you 4 different sharpening models at the same time. And then you can pick which one you think is sharpening the best. And that's also very helpful. So you can look at all 4 of them, and you can switch which 4 models it's using.
Yeah. I gotta
There's
admit,
one
I
of the
don't use
models
sharpen
that-
that much, so.
Jim, there's one of the models, it's called, I think it's called Clear, or is that denoise? And I was kind of wondering what that clear means. It seems to be sharper when I use that one, but when I come back into Photoshop and look at it, always seems over sharpened.
Yeah, I wish I remembered the name of all of them, but I always run the 4 picture model, and I have, I've used the ones that actually say something like very blurry, motion blur, or very blurry because of oh, it's too soft, whatever. And those seem to work really well. But the clear, I don't think I've used that very often. I just haven't really found that to be the best of the algorithms that they use for that. But
Yeah,
I just think it does some remarkable things. There are times when you have something that you aren't even sure it's going to work on, and it does some really great things. Now, I know On One is now combined a noise and a sharpening within its program. So many times I'll finish up my photos in On One and I'll send them in there. Theirs is good, but I don't think it's quite at Topaz's level yet.
yeah, Topaz seems to have the best algorithms out of almost anybody, so
Yeah.
I've always been impressed with their stuff and that.
Yeah,
So
Jeff, I was like you though. I was beginning to I've gotten to the point where I think twice before I spend money on all these different things. It just gets
Yeah.
to be too many things, but Topaz is one that I'm glad that I spent the money on.
yeah, I'm happy. I bought their whole suite, including their video one, because I've got a bunch of old videos I want to clean up when I can get to it, especially they're copied from videotape. So I'm pretty sure that's gonna, if it does what it says, it's gonna clean those up real nice. But so yeah, I've got actually all 4 plugins and just don't have time to try to get to them. But yeah, I used to have a ton of plugins, and I'm just dropping back to Lightroom and Photoshop and a little bit of Topaz and a couple older versions of Luminar. So
I see the
But,
price has gone up on Photo AI to 199 now.
it's up to 199.
Wait for Thanksgiving and holiday sales.
Yeah, yeah, you got Black Friday coming, and that stuff all drops like crazy.
But they're still
Oh.
selling the individual products, aren't they, Brian?
I think they are.
I wonder what.
Brian, you're muted.
Yeah, I didn't research that. Sorry.
I think they're still selling them individually, but I wouldn't be surprised if you see that go away and it go to the Photo AI.
I was kind
so
of
they can
wondering what the
just-
price difference was between the whole shebang and the
Well,
individual.
Photo AI is up to $200. I believe I paid for all 4 of them was like $275, $250. So, and that video one was really expensive by itself. So it sounds like it's probably comparable. So that's why I have the feeling that that's what they're doing, is they're going to combine it into that Photo AI so they can work just with one program. Because I got the feeling it's got to be tough to be broken into 3 sections like that and constantly be working on it.
Yeah, the individual ones are available for about 80. Sharpen and denoise are 80, and gigapixel is 100.
Yeah. So it's about the same as Photo AI. So it certainly sounds like that's where they're headed. Which would be great. I would actually like it in one package, because just like you, Drema, sometimes you want to do two things there, and you got to take it and go out and come back, and then go out again and come
Yeah, I did a
back.
bird. I did a shot of a bird, you know, that was down on the ground on when we were up north. And I did the sharpen, you know, on the upper part of the body, and then the underside though was in the shade. And so then I used denoise, you know, to clear up, you know, basically to clear up the underside, the underbelly of that bird. So there in that one product, I was able to do both, you know. So
Yeah.
but if you want to do something like Jim's talking, where you don't want to sharpen a blurry background, well then gotta go. Yeah, then I guess you have to go to Sharpen AI.
Yeah. Well, I'm planning to test it out real well, because I've got a ton of a lighthouse with gale force winds and waves, and some of them aren't sharp and some of them are very noisy because of the high ISO I was shooting at to freeze the action. So I will probably be running a lot of that through Topaz.
Yeah, give it a try. I will be anxious to hear what you learn.
Yeah, and I'll have to download the Photo AI, because I know I have a free offer coming on that for me. So no. Okay, well, that was interesting. Anybody else have something? Come on, we got 26 people out there. You guys must have some problems.
I get my windows done,
Yeah,
my glass windows done, cleaned.
yeah. I got a screen door to put on when I'm done with this meeting. So, well,
I have a question about printing and calibrating and all that good stuff. So
go for it.
I had a coupon to print a calendar, which I've never done in my life, but it was a good deal, and I thought, well, I'll give them out for Christmas gifts. So I got all my editing done, and then I had watched a video from a professional, and he said, here's how you prepare your images for print, and he had me go into Photoshop and do all kinds of stuff in there. Fine. So he said, when you print, it's a little duller. So when I got it back into Lightroom, I could compare what I did in Photoshop to Lightroom, and it was brighter, not a ton, but enough that I think now we're ready for print. So I exported them all. I loaded them into the Rose software. And when I dragged that image up into the calendar, it got really dark and very muted colors compared to what I see when I just open the JPEG. So they keep saying, well, you need to calibrate your monitor. And they sent me this. Well, you can't see what I'm saying when I see this. They sent me a printout of a test patterns with colors and everything. And then they sent me the JPEG so I could open the JPEG and do a compare. So yes, mine is a little brighter, but not, I mean, these were really, my bright reds went like burgundy color. When I take that same picture before I did anything in Photoshop, and I load that in, it stays the exact same color as they were. So why can I open the JPEG right out of Lightroom and see my colors as I have them? I can open the JPEG that I generated when I made it ready for print in Photoshop, and it's still very bright. But when I open them both in the print rows, one gets really dark and one stays really bright. I don't know what to do.
Look for a different calendar printer.
Well, okay, so here's the really weird thing though. So I usually use White House Custom Color for my prints. So I did the same test at White House Custom Color and I get the same results.
Okay. One of the questions I'd ask is, what color space are you using in Photoshop, and what color space are you exporting out from Lightroom? Because that will make a big difference.
Okay. I will look there.
The other would be that if your images are looking dark, that means your monitor is too bright. And when you calibrate, generally with the calibrating setup, if you use a calibrating tool, it will tell you to set it to this brightness, and you'll adjust the monitor to be darker or brighter.
And I do that. I mean, it's probably been 6 months since I calibrated, but I calibrate, but it's so weird to me that both JPEGs look fine on my monitor and both JPEGs look totally different when trying to order a print.
Yeah,
Let me
when you
also-
order a print, you do need to be at sRGB.
Yep.
That's probably the most important setting because that's how they are set at for printing.
Okay.
Can I mention one other thing? And that is, I know you can edit in different color spaces as well. So you might want to check what color space you're editing in. So if you were in, let's say, Pro Photo and editing, you can get colors in there that won't show up on your monitor, but you're moving sliders into colors that are available in Pro Photo. So you also might want to check if your color spaces are different. So if your color spaces, let's say sRGB in Adobe, but you're using Pro Photo in Lightroom, you might be screwing up your colors in Lightroom and not even know that.
Okay, thank you. That helps.
Jeff, I have a question for what you just said. I've been doing printing for a long time and calibrating, and I fight with that all the time. It's an ongoing, it's a forever issue if you have your printer and you print. But one thing I've always been told, and I always do, is when I calibrate my monitors, I set them down to a little bit darker, set them darker. But the idea that I'm setting my my monitor down to a darker space so that I get what comes out of the printer the same as what I see on the screen. I don't want my monitors to be dark all the time. So do I have to save different color spaces for when I'm generally working on the computer and when I'm actually printing?
Yeah.
Yes. So
To be honest, I have all my monitors set at 50% brightness because that's what it takes to print. And you work with that for a day and your eyes will adjust to it and it won't be a big deal. When you get the monitors straight from the factory, they are set at 100% brightness and they are twice as bright as they need to be.
and you get used to it, huh?
Yeah, you get used to all that. Sometimes it's a day, sometimes it takes a week to get used to it at the darker setting, but all my monitors are calibrated for printing, and I've got, well, 3 of them that I use for printing, and they're all calibrated the same, they all look the same, and they're all at about 50% darker.
Yeah,
Can I also say that a way to think about this is when you get your computers, they really crank up the brightness just because they look more vibrant, and I think people like that. But remember, the screen should be as bright as a white sheet of paper would be if you put it right next to the screen with a light on it, just a normal light. Because when you're printing, white is only the color of the paper. It's not any brighter than the paper. So if you're used to seeing white twice as bright just because it's so vivid on your screen, then all the colors are shifted a little bit. So when you go to print them, they're all going to be off. Anytime you've probably noticed this, whenever you take, let's say, a color and you make it brighter, you really need to adjust the saturation as well, because a brighter color has a different saturation value than a darker color. That's also why you'll see in darker colors, you can get much more vivid colors. So if you want to see the same thing that you're going to print, you really need to get your monitor equal again to sort of like a white paper look.
Yeah, that's good information, you guys. I feel like that I've paid a lot of money for these high-end printers that have the bright capabilities, and that I'm not actually using the brightness, which I like. But if you get used to, I have gotten used to it when I set it down not 50% or whatever, but set it down some to try to get good prints. But I guess I need to set it down really low.
In fact, you get so used to it, you don't really even like the bright colors after a while. Like I don't ever turn mine up. And when I do, I realize, whoa, that's really hard on your eyes because you're not used to seeing it like that anymore. But there again, in most of the calibrators, especially the newer ones, they tell you how bright your screen needs to be. So if you do a complete check, the very first thing it says is, basically it's saying, how bright is your screen? Let's check that. And it will actually do that first with you. And it's going to ask you to turn your screen either brighter or darker before it does the calibration. That way it's putting it in the right brightness, again, for a white paper.
Yeah.
What do you, I calibrate with X-Rite. What do you use?
Oh, I got to look over. I have a spider.
Yeah.
The
I use the
color spider.
Yeah, and I use X-Rite, the iPhoto calibrator. And actually that's Calibrate now.
And I will say that I did the same thing that Elizabeth did, and I just ordered some stuff out of White House Custom Color. And I mean, I can hold them next to the screen and the colors are amazingly true to what I see on my screen. And I have a screen that does show all sRGB colors. So when I hold the two next to each other, they're incredibly close. And I don't do anything other than save them out as JPEG, send them to them, and they send me the prints.
Right. Hey, I think you guys are onto something, because when I export out of Lightroom, it's sRGB. And I just checked my Photoshop, and when I'm saving my copy out of there, the little thing is checked that says embed color profile pro photo RGB.
Yeah.
That's a real problem. In fact, people really should get away from, well, I shouldn't say that. There are people who understand what they're doing and they can stay in there. But the problem is most of those colors that you can generate in there, you cannot see in your monitors today. That just don't exist. So you can push reds in the areas that don't even exist. You can't see them on your screen, but then when you go to send them out, they're going to be weird and shifted because they're not normal colors.
So I can uncheck that, but then how do I know what it's exporting as? Because it didn't give me an option.
You're in Photoshop?
Yeah, in Photoshop, there is an option.
In the legacy save to web, they have the convert to sRGB and check.
Yeah, the easiest would be to you got a couple of different ways. You could export it right out of Photoshop using their export function to a JPEG, and then have it embed an sRGB profile, and it will downgrade the profile and bring the colors in to match.
I export strictly out of Lightroom, and there, of course, you have the option of selecting the color space that you exit in. I don't do any exiting out of Photoshop, but I use Pro whatever. In editing my photos. But when I want to send it out either for digital purposes, then again, of course, I do it right out of Lightroom because it's so easy on that export menu.
Yeah, and that will downshift it. Now, Elizabeth, you can also in Lightroom soft proof it to see the differences. If you go into the develop module and then do soft proofing, you can actually see the difference between the two settings. And that sometimes works.
I think it is important to remember that we can see on our screens colors that inks have trouble producing. And our screens will show us more colors than most inks will do. On the other hand, inks can do some better dark colors. So that soft proofing can be helpful if you push a lot of things very bright. Then you'll see what wouldn't print very well, just because the inks can't get as bright as our screens can.
Right. Yeah, because the screen is pushing light out from behind and prints are reflecting from the back of the paper through.
All right. I'll have to play
but
with it.
today's Epson printers are now printing in a higher range than what sRGB is, and that's what's getting tricky. The monitors are getting better too, so that's helping.
All right, so last question. So I'm just gonna take the ones I have in Lightroom because they're close to the little color calibration card they sent me.
Yeah.
If mine are a little brighter, my JPEGs on my monitor are brighter than what the colors are on this card they sent me, do I just turn down exposure? How do I get it closer to what I see on this little color card they sent me?
Are you saying the color card is got brighter colors than what
No,
you are showing?
No, they're more,
Darker
my monitor is brighter than how they're going to print.
Yeah, then you'd have to bring the exposure down a little bit, but
Okay.
keep in mind, you'd probably be better off to get your monitor calibrated for brightness first, and that might take care of it for you.
Yep, I will try that. I'm running out of time. My coupon expires. my coupon expires to get my cheap calendars. So I'm going to play with it today, but worst case.
Yeah, I would just run a quick calibration and make sure that your brightness on the monitor is down. But you could just, it's not a great adjustment, but yeah, you could just drop the exposure down so that it matches your card, and then use that same adjustment to all your images. But that's a real guesstimate.
I can just send them in knowing they're going to be a little darker, but they're not that far off. They're worse coming out of the Pro Photo, trust me. But I don't think they'd be too far off interestingly enough, my colors are okay. My black and white images compared to what they send me are horrible.
Mm.
Elizabeth, another thing you might do is call the company and tell them that you're struggling with the color and the calibration, and ask them to give you an extension on your discount.
Yeah, I will. The professional that had shown me how to do all of this has actually been working with them on my behalf. So they're familiar with it. So I will probably give them a call Monday.
Yeah.
If we have time, Roger Krill asks the question, does anybody have experience going from Windows 10 to Windows 11? I've wondered the same thing for some time, and
me, stop it.
Robert's crossing his heart there. But anybody have any experiences to share in Windows, people in Windows world?
I shouldn't say this because we're working with Windows. If you're on Windows 10, stay there. If you're getting a computer with it, then by all means, upgrade. But if it doesn't come with your system, don't upgrade.
And why would you say that? Personal experience?
Yeah, but I'm on Windows 11 machines now. There's a lot of software that's not compatible with it right now. So that's one reason. The other reason is I think in the next 6 months to a year, it'll finally mature. And then you'll be able to have no problems. But I did find several programs I need have issues with it. Now the newest update they just did corrects a lot of that problem. But if it's not fixed, if it's not broken, don't fix it. But like I said, if the machine comes with it, then upgrade.
Yeah.
If it doesn't come with it, then just leave it.
The kind of struggles they went through back when they incorporated Windows NT into I don't remember which version of Windows they combined those, but we had to wait for several versions for things to settle out.
Well, I never upgrade until at least 2 or 3 versions in, but
Well,
I'm a Mac guy.
Well, if it do you remember when we upgraded from Windows? What was it? Windows 7 to Windows 10. It was like a major upgrade. Like, oh my God, this is amazing. Yeah, this one's not like that. It's not like, oh my God, I gotta have it. So,
Yeah.
Now I do have one photo thing to show if you have time. If not, if you want to start with Vanelli early, that would be fine too.
Yeah, we can go ahead, Jim.
I'm going to need to share a screen, and I'm going to see if I can make this work.
Go for it.
All right, so let's just see if it'll let me do this. All right, can you see a thing that says digital synopsis?
Yep.
Okay. I'm going to show you something. I saw this on NBC News about 2.5 years ago. A 13-year-old boy. Uh-oh, I just seemed to disappeared my screen. Did yours disappear as well? Hope there.
Yep.
Maybe well, I don't know why that happened. Let's find out what's going on here. There we go. A 13-year-old boy who takes photography. What's interesting about this kid is he has autism, and you would think sometimes disabilities can be a problem, but in this case, this kid sees things in ways the rest of us simply cannot. So here's an interesting picture he had taken, and you might say, well, what's so great about that? These are just some cars that he has in front of a drive-in. No. He does it this way. So if you look at it, he takes miniature models, places them in place, and then takes pictures of them with his iPhone. Now you might think, well, does he have a lot of different kinds of looks and so on? Again, I'm having trouble with the screen. It's being very fussy with me here. Let's see if we can, there we go. I'll just go through this. We can send the links to you, but you'll see the way he does this. It's absolutely phenomenal. Yep. And as he's gotten older now, he's getting even better. So you get something like this. Again, you might think, well, those are the cars in the parking lot. No, not really. I mean, I'll show you what he did here. He kind of has the list of how he did it. There it is. There's his cars. There's the background. And as you go through this, you're going to see the stuff he does gets to be more and more remarkable. And he now makes his own backgrounds. So all of it's done with models. He doesn't do anything directly with the cars. He doesn't own the cars. These are all model cars. And he does things like this, where he'll go out to a roadway, put something down, have a background, or this one. This looks like he's at a lakefront. No, not quite at all. In fact, again, I'll kind of page down here that you can see what he's doing. And when you see it, you'll go, no way. There it is. That is crazy good. So if you ever sort of pressed and you're saying, I wonder if I could do something different. Well, this kid has certainly found something different in photography and ways of doing things that the rest of us simply don't even think about. Wow. Absolutely phenomenal work. Again, you see what he does. He takes a table out, does this in the middle of a field. It's phenomenal work. That's why he wound up on the news, because his stuff is so incredible. He actually has a worldwide following now of what he does. But at this link, it might be something you might want to see and go through this all, because again, I'm paging through this quickly for you. But his stuff is so incredible. In fact, a little further down here, you'll see here, he's doing like this automobile at the top. And then down at the bottom, you see how he's actually got it done. He built that little thing you saw there. He builds them at home. And again, I'll try and page down where you can see where he does that. Because again, all of this is so remarkable. The work is so incredible. But I want to show you how he built that. And he uses stuff we would use. So he takes like a styrofoam model, starts out like this. And then he's using stuff we would all use, like here's that Flex Seal that you see on TV, puts that down, and he paints it up, and he gets this incredible look out of his work. So he gets stuff like this, where it shows up as amazing. Again, he shows how all that's done. There are different websites you can go to see how he does his stuff, but he really is quite amazing. Anyway, I just wanted to show that to you. If you were looking for inspiration, you thought, boy, I want to do something different. I can't even think of what I'd want to do. I have never shot with little models like this and then tried to make them look real, but he does this all day long. So
he's a great model maker, just making the models.
Everything he does, but like some of these are so easy. Like for instance, here you're looking at a tabletop that is just black with some lines so that it looks like a parking lot. And then he puts that together with the building and you'd swear that's where he was.
Yeah.
He's not doing everything doesn't have to be crazy good. It just has to be good. Like here, this is what that tabletop would look like. It's just crazy good stuff. Well, anyway, what I can do is in the chat section here in a little bit, I'll try and pull this and print this link for you. And then you can see some of the stuff he's doing. Again, it absolutely was crazy good for me to see this again. And I thought, boy, what a neat way to think about photography and maybe get your mind thinking about things differently than we normally do.
Yeah.
But a neat thing to see.
No, that's neat. That's using your imagination and all the different aspects of photography. So yeah.
Yeah, if you go to his website, he's got way more out there that is so cool.
He sells photos. I mean, in fact, he's got a whole thing where and his photos were relatively cheap. I think they were like $35 or $50 for an 8x10. But he's got a whole website of things he sells. So it is pretty impressive stuff.
Yeah. Interesting.
Oh, he's got a book coming out called Shifting Perspectives.
Wow.
Yeah.
That'll help you get through college.
Yeah. Yeah.
And again, it is interesting when you hear him speak, because again, he does have autism. I mean, so sometimes we always want to think disabilities are a problem, but I think he sees things in ways we don't see them. And he's able to visualize stuff in a way that we can't. In fact, there was an article that they were thinking Einstein was one of those. As you know, he was terrible at math. He actually had to have people do his proofs, but they think he was able to visualize things in a way the rest of us could not. And that's part of how he was able to come up with some of the stuff he came up with. So again, this is just a kid who is, I just thought this stuff is fascinating to see.
Yeah.
You know, you'd never seen it before.
Yeah, thanks, Jim.
Yeah. No, thanks. That's good. Always interesting to see different photographers and how they come up with stuff.
Hey, one
Makes you
last
feel
comment on Topaz Photo AI. They now have masking in there.
Oh, okay. Great. Something else to try out. Jeez. Well, let's get started with Robert Vanelli from Skylum. I think I ran into you a number of years ago, probably in Florida at Photoshop World. You wouldn't remember me, but I think you were in a pre-con that I was in and saw you running around way back. So maybe that's when I first knew of you. But I've heard a lot of good stuff about you. Thank you for coming to our group. We're all sort of interested in Luminar. Quite a few people are. Some have it, some don't, and are looking to get at it. So want to tell us a little bit about yourself? And
well, first of all, I wish I could show you the background. I have 3 children that that's being baptized, my godchildren. So this weekend, I'm going to be a godfather of 3 of the 6 kids. So I apologize if there's a lot of noise going around out here. We are sitting out by the pool, but it is 70 or 80 degrees weather and it's freezing. So anyway, so yeah, I'm the director of education for Skylum. And what I love best about Skylum, what they allow me to do, is I'm a photographer first, then I do photo editing second. So I love that they embrace that approach, that I'm allowed to teach about photography and how to get the shot proper in camera. And then, oh yeah, here's our software, watch what it can do. Like I'll give you a couple of examples of like the new power line removal that we have. And it's amazing, but I will admit, when I talked to the engineers, they said, well, let me show you how I get rid of these power lines. And I showed them before and after. He goes, how'd you do that? It was simple. I moved the subject 3 feet to the right, and there was no power lines. Took the picture there. So yeah, they didn't find it funny. You know, but as photographers, yeah, our goal is to do what we can to get the image as close as possible in the camera. And if we can't, then we use programs like Photoshop to repair the photos. Neo is for enhancing photos. So you did your job, you got the photos the way you liked them. And I'll show you a couple examples of, let's say, like portraits, where if I didn't light the face properly, now we have other tools we could use to mimic a reflection bouncing back into the subject. So, but like I said, there's no replacing good photography. You know, you get it the way you can, you love it, great. Here's how you enhance it. All right.
Great. Yep. Go for it.
All right. Well, here, I'll share my screen. And I'm usually, let's see, I usually have like 5 different monitors running around. So I'm limited to one. This is going to be interesting. All right. So you're able to see, yep. So you're able to see my screen, correct?
Yep.
Perfect. And let me move you guys out of the way a little bit. And get this situated. There we go. So I moved you guys out, and let me, I think it's the Alt key. Nope, I'll just have to work around it. All right, so I'm going to start at the very bottom here. And let's just begin with this image here. All right. Now, I know a lot of you are landscape photographers, and I'll go through all of that. But what I wanted to show you is in the very beginning, these presets, what's really cool about what the engineers did is they created for this photo, and they made this AI base. So what's really good about this is if you're new to Neo or even new to Luminar, this is where you would start, because it'll teach you what tools to use in a situation like this. It's much like putting your camera in auto mode to get the proper exposure of a scene. And then you're like, oh, okay, now put it in manual mode and dial in those settings. Same concept here. So from here, this is using AI technology to analyze the screen or the image and think what tools will look really good with this particular image. And in this case here, I'm just going to grab just random ones just to show you. So I always love, for this image, I always love black and white. So if I click on the film noir, look at that. In one click, it already gave me a great style that I can work with. In fact, you know what? I'm going to stay with this one. So I love how this is. Now, if I click on edit, what I'm going to look at is these are all the tools that we could use with Luminar Neo. But what I want to do is I want to click on edits. And now this is showing me right from the very beginning, what did it do? How did it create this particular look? Here's before, here's after. So now I can analyze, develop. Now, if this were a raw file, it would say develop raw. So with develop, you can develop raw files and JPEGs. The difference is if it's a raw file, you have more leeway on things you can do with it. So in this case, it is a JPEG. And if I'm looking, it's showing me the different settings that it applied to make this image look the way it did. And then the next image, of course, or the next tool is skin, because we are dealing with a portrait. Here's face. And watch this. I'll go to an extreme. Look at this is what I was talking about before. Look how Face AI can analyze the image. Get a little closer. And it knows exactly where the face is. So if I didn't put enough light into the scene, I can. So this is what it is without the Face AI. Let's bump up a little more light. There we go. And each of the tools has this visibility icon. So I can see independently what each tool is doing or adding to the image. And Structure AI is going to add clarity to the structure or to the image around the subject. So it's human aware. So it knows that this is a person, and it's not going to add that like ungodly sharpening effect to the skin, but it adds sharpness to the and texture to the rocks or the jacket and so on. And we could change up the color scene, pop a little super contrast. And I'm going through this quick because I'm going to show you individually how to put all this together. All right. Now, here's one thing. This film grain. So I'm not a fan of the film grain for this particular image. So I could reset it. Let me move this out of the way. There we go. I'm going to reset it. And now I can delete it. And now I don't have that film grain as part of the scene. So this is before. And in one click, look what I'm able to do with that image. Now, since I made a change, if I click on actions, I can save that as my own preset. So it used to be it was under the black and white. So I'm going to call this black and white Vanelli. No noise. And now I just took a preset that Skylum gave you that were designed by the Skylum team and professional photographers. And all I did was enhance it slightly. And now I made it my own. So that's a great learning tool that you could just look and see what it recommends. And then you make your changes from there. All right. And by the way, please do me a favor. I'm not able to see the chat. If you have questions, don't hesitate to chime in and interrupt me. All right.
Yeah,
So
I'll keep an eye on it and let you know if we get any questions and such. Perfect.
All right. So let's move on to this image here. All right. This is what I was talking about earlier, how they came up with power line removal. And as a portrait photographer, my attitude is, well, move the person. And it didn't dawn on me, well, what if you couldn't do that? What if in this scene here, I love it, but there's all these power lines, I want to get rid of them. Or you may say, you know what? I like the power lines. I want the power lines in because it shows that culture or that where this is located. You would never see this in Florida because of all the power lines are all underground or they're in solid tubes. So you may want to keep it. If you don't want to keep it, well, this is where we're going to get rid of them. So if I click on edits, and I'll come down to erase. And now under erase, here is remove power line. Now I'm going to show you this image first and wait till you see the amazing job it does. Then I'm going to show you another image where it does a good job. Look at that. Before, after, absolutely amazing. Now, I do want to manage expectations because that was phenomenal. This image, you would think is less complicated than the last one. So, but watch what happens here. So I'm going to come over, click on edits or edit, and under erase, do the same thing. Remove power line. And we'll let it render. Let me see if I have. I do. Let me. There we go. All right. And we're going to let it render a bit. It's taking longer than I expected. Or did I? You know what? I think I messed it up. No, it's working. Okay, there it is. All right. So it did a very good job. Let me hide it. Before and after. But you can definitely see there's areas here that it did good. It didn't do great. So let's fix that. All right. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit. There we go. And I'm just using the space bar to maneuver around. So now that I did that, I'm going to take this section here and I'm going to come right over it and click erase. That looks great. But now coming over here to this area right here, it mistaken that this area here, it mistaken it for power lines. So let's fix that. So if I come over, and I'm just gonna highlight all of it. This time, instead of hitting erase, I'll click restore. And look, I'm able to bring that area back in. So the point I'm getting at is if it doesn't do what's expected, because again, AI is phenomenal, but let's not forget, we're the photographers. If it took this scene, I mean, this would have taken hours to do in Photoshop. And look how quick we were able to do this. But if there's areas in the image that we need to erase or restore, we have that capability to come back and get that back in. All right.
So Vanelli, it's going to restore everything, right? Like it's that piece it took out on that far back building, that bright white line, would it would restore, go to the building in the back. See where the break is?
Here, let me zoom in a little bit.
Like
All right.
right under the,
So
no, that bright white line right under the roof. It's now got that dark section, which used to also be, can't you see where my fingers, there, yeah.
Yeah, I can't see your finger.
I know. I know.
Here we go. Where are you saying?
All right, so right under the roof line on that back building is that bright white slant, and it takes.
Oh, right here, right here.
Nope, go down. Now stop and go left. Just go up a little.
Oh, down here.
Go up, straight up, go and stop.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I'm so sorry.
That's
Yes.
all right. That would fill in as well with restore.
Yeah, so you hit restore. And
Oh,
there it
nice.
is.
Oh, I didn't even know that. Thank you.
Thank you. I didn't even notice that. Actually, let's see what that does. Nope, that was already there. Yeah. So, and you're able to go back, and of course, there's different things you can do to tweak it. But again, it depends how long you want to spend, on this image. Now, here's the thing, my attitude on this. If this is for a shot, for a brochure, and let's say this is an Airbnb, if this is for an Airbnb, then I'm sorry, that needs to be there because you're selling a location. So to me, ethically, that needs to be there. I wouldn't remove it, but if it's for personal use, I have no problem. What are your thoughts on that? Are you guys on the same page?
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, if it's for commercial or something where you're showing a view, you certainly need to keep them in. But boy, it does do a nice slick job of removing them.
Exactly.
There.
Right. Let me jump onto this one here. So here's a photo. I'm going to do something a little bit different. It's my friend's kitten, Oliver. First time Oliver was outside. I want to make him look ferocious and big. I want him to look like he's in a jungle and not, out in front of my house. So I have a choice. I can come to presets and let presets, back to here, let presets decide and give me some suggestions. Let's see. Let's see what Blockbuster does. So this is strictly for processing the image. And then we'll get a little creative. But that looks pretty cool. Shanghai. Now, honestly, I mean, I love this image in black and white. So let me see what I can do here. If this photo right here doesn't have a black and white, which it doesn't, I can always come down here and select my own. So Soulful is always a good one. And if I like Soulful quite a bit, Then I can come over here and just click the heart icon. And now it's going to save as one of my favorites. Yep, there it is. So I love black and white. Now let's get a little creative. So under edits, instead of jumping to the crop tool, hey guys, instead of jumping to the crop tool, what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to jump down here to actually develop. And under develop, I want to mess with the optics. And let's do the lens distortion. Now, I know normally lens distortion is reserved when we want to fix distortion in an image. But in this case here, I can go to a negative value. And let me get to it. I apologize. Let me go to a
Sounds like a good party.
Yeah, they're out by the pool. And some guys were nice enough. I feel bad. I asked them to be quiet, and they're phenomenal. All right, transform. There we go. There. So you see how it did my lens distortion. So now I purposely made it look distorted. And what I want to do now is this where I can come in with my crop tool. Now I have a choice. I could see what it recommends. Okay, that's not bad. So Composition AI saw this as a crop. But me personally, what I want to do is try as much as I can, get rid of that building in the background or my house. Put them in the rule of thirds there. And give it a second to render. And there we have it. So by using distortion, crop, look, I'm able to take an image like this and just make it look a little different, more creative. Now, once I add one of these tools, you jump over to edits, and under edits, this is like your history, the history of your edits. But the difference is not only can you reset it, but I could also change what I'm doing. So I'm going to come over here to highlights. And I'm going to dial way back the highlights, try to bring back some of the fur. That's it. So I have that set. Black and white tones, maybe enrich the tones a little. And then bring out the whites just a touch. So these are things you're already used to doing. Let's pop up the shadows a little bit. I'm just showing you where they are in the tools. And again, before, and then after, and then the overall, this is what we started with. And then just a little extra, we enhanced it. All right.
All right, new question. Is
Yes.
there a reason you went under edits to go back to develop to bring the highlights down instead of just
Yes.
doing a new develop under tools?
Perfect. So I could have added, thank you. I could have added another instance of develop. Right up there, here we go. I could have added another instance of develop here, then, bring down the highlights. And if I do that, now we look at edits, we'll see that there's two of them now. There's this one and then this one. Now, honestly, a lot of times I'll do that. I'll delete it. A lot of times I'll go back to edits and change it here if I don't want to clutter up my history. So if I were going to save this as a preset, then I'd go in and make sure that I use the tools. Like in this case here, I didn't realize I actually added another instance of develop here. So I could come down to here, dial back that. And if I do, it'll follow that change all the way up through. So it's non-destructive. I can always go back, make my additional changes, and then it'll take me all the way through all the rest of my edits. All right, that was a good question.
The best part I found about this whole concept of being able to, I have two actually, was I had a very noisy image. It was night sky. So I went and this was before noiseless AI, and I took all the noise all the way down, but it was still had some. So I closed out and then I opened it and did it again. So I had the two instances and that worked. But I have an image right now where I'm trying to clone windows. So I get one little clone piece that worked and I exit out of that clone and then I go into another one rather than all cloning at once and losing everything when I make one mistake. So that is like the best tool ever.
Exactly. All right, let me show you now. So one thing we were missing was layers in the past. So our team put together and they added layers to our workflow now. So in this case here, if I want to make this like an augmented reality, let me hide this layer to show you. So here's the original image. So there's the original image. And then that's what I converted it to. But let me show you an under edits. So under edits, oh, actually, you know what? I take that back. So yeah, this right here, yeah, I did. So there's the original image. And now on, oh, that's right. On the bottom layer, this bottom layer here, I can come over and show you exactly the tools we used to get this image. All right. So I start out with noiseless, went out to develop, and I went all the way up through. And now on that particular layer, just this layer, all those tools are. Now, when I move to a new layer, let me show this. Notice when I look at edits, those are gone. And the reason why they're gone is each layer has its own level, its own edits, its own edit history. So this way, they're all independent from each other. And this is what we have here. And then let's say I want to add birds to the scene. We have it here. So now this is looking pretty good. However, whenever you're dealing with a composite or a composition or a composite like this, it's always good to put another tool or another, let's say, a filter or something on top of all three of these. As of right now, we don't have a way to merge these images. That's the developers are working on that. So soon we'll be able to merge each one of these. Or if I want, I mean, I could right now reorder the layer. That's not a problem. I can take the bottom layer and move it up higher. I mean, so there's a lot of things we can do. The final step, I believe, is once we're able to merge these images, oh, that's going to be perfect. But until then, what I'm going to do is I'm going to export the image. Now, typically, I export it back to the folder that this image came from. So this way, it'll appear in Neo without me having to do anything. But what I'm going to do right now is just add it to my desktop. Here we are. And I can name it. I apologize, everyone. Here's edit. And now it's exporting. Let me move my zoom windows around. There we go. Now, once I did that, it exported to where I wanted it. Now what I'm going to do is, let's see if it's still exporting. Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. My zoom window's in the way. There it is. I'm going to give it a few seconds to export. Now, typically the exporting is a little bit faster than this. The fact that we're on Zoom and I'm pushing it.
Yeah, that's a lot for a computer to do.
Yeah. But once it exports, it goes right to the location I recommended, which was the desktop. And then from the desktop, I'll just bring it in as a an instance. Let me just double check, see how I am on battery. Good. I'm going to close this out just so I don't waste our time. There we go. Let me try it one more time. Folder. And you know what? I'm going to move it to a JPEG. And on the long end, 1920. Let's see if that makes a big difference. So I'm not exporting it as full resolution. All right, let's see if that does any better. If not, you get the idea of what I'm saying, to where we can export it, get the image where we want it, and then bring it back into Neo, and then just apply. It doesn't matter what it is. It could be any filter, tool, just something to tie those three objects back together again. All right?
While you're waiting, Vanelli, so all those birds are really black except the one that's right up by the top.
Church.
That one's like, did you do something to make it like?
Yes, you're right, I did. So, so keep in mind, thanks for, oh my Lord. So the poor guy's looking at me going, I'm so sorry. Okay. That was my new Colombian friend, or Cuban friend, Andrew. All right. So there, it exported it. So yes, so this layer here can have its own layer mask. So in this case, let's say I don't want the birds near the church, right? So I'm going to go over to layers and I can mask that out. I'm going to brush, erase. And then like you said, I didn't do a great job. Let me erase that out of there. So the neat thing is all the tools has layers. Well, now the layer mask, and the layer mask itself, did I shut it down? And the layer mask itself has its own tools, or I'm sorry, its own layers. So not only can you put layers on, there we go, put layers on a tool, but now I can do the same thing to the actual layer. So I could layer mask the tools, and now I can, which we call tool mask. And now I can come in and apply layers, or a mask rather, erase. There we go. To that area right there. All right, and let's say I want to get rid of these two too. And notice it doesn't affect anything else except that layer. So anything under that layer doesn't get changed. All right. Thank you for catching that. And now that photo that I exported, what I want to do is I'm going to add it as a single image edit. And the reason why I'm showing you this is there's different ways to add photos to Neo. I can add a folder of images, or I can just add one image. And in this case here, on my desktop, there's the image. And now I have that image. I brought it into Neo as a single image edit. So it's not part of a folder. It's not part of another collection. It's all by itself. Let me go back to edits for a minute. And just to finish this one off, I'm going to use one of my favorite tools, which is the dramatic tool. I'm just going to apply it to the entire image. And now look how the moon took on that characteristic, and so did the rest of the image. So now it looks like it belongs. All right, so that was just a little tip. Whether you're using Neo or Photoshop, whatever you're using to do your composites, always make sure at the very, very end, you put something together. All right? Good. Any questions up to this point?
so far nobody's asking any. So you must be giving us all the info we need.
Oh, good. All right, I'll do one last image. This group is primarily landscapes, correct?
For landscape, nature is
Okay.
pretty much what this group is, yeah.
So,
We
you know,
like wildlife, V. We like a lot of wildlife.
oh, you know what? Now you're telling me. I wish I had my wildlife photos. I was with Deb Sandage, and we photographed Gatorland. And in Gatorland, you would think we're going to photograph gators. No, it was all the birds that nest there during the season. And I wish I had those images to show you.
Yeah, that's a great place to shoot birds.
Yeah, which I was shocked. I mean, I thought we were going for the alligators.
Oh,
And here are incredible birds.
I make special trips down there every couple of years to photograph those birds there. It's great.
I'm shocked you were going even knowing there were going to be gators there.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, wait, you know what? Maybe I do have them. Nope, I don't. All right, so I got yeah, this bird was actually there, but not. Let's see. I'm pretty sure this bird was there, but wasn't. Nope. Oh, here we are. Gotcha. All right, so this was from Gatorland. All right. Now, and I apologize in advance to all of you wildlife photographers. I'm not very patient when it comes to photographing wildlife. So Deb Sanders said, look, Vanelli, when that bird that's perched on that branch goes to the bathroom, it's going to fly across the scene and hit those fish right in front of us. I said, okay, what are we waiting for? And they kept going on saying, well, we're waiting for the bird, to go to the bathroom. And I'm like, oh my God, you got to be kidding me. So I threw a piece of bread in the water. The bird took off after the bread. I got my shot. Deb had me sit in the corner. So I didn't realize we're not supposed to mess with nature. So I'm learning. All right. So here we are with the bird. And let's see what for this photo does. It knows it's a close-up shot. It's scenic. Oh, look at this. So I'll pick the savannas. So it's anticipating there's wildlife in this shot. So let's grab this. And by the way, when I click on one of these, you'll notice it's working because this illuminates. Look at that. So even chill. Let's see, bitter cold. I'm falling back into my black and white. I just love black and white. All right, here's instant results. Let's see what that does. Okay, perfect. So look what instant results just did for me. And again, before, after, and now you decide, well, what else do I want to do with this? It's probably not appropriate, but I'm going to do it. I do like a glowing effect because of the white feathers. So I may come over to glow, and instead of soft focus, I may click on glow itself. And that glow is just going to give the whites. Look at that. Look how it brings out the whites in the scene. If I click on it, now I'm going to click on it again to give me another instance. But this time, I want to blur the daylights out of everything. Let's see which one. The Orton effect. Nope. I'm going to stick with soft focus. Now, I did the soft focus. I like what it did around the bird, but not on the bird. So let's use a tool mask. But this time I'll use a radial gradient. And I'm going to draw a circle around the bird. And now what I'm asking Luminar to do is apply that glow effect on everything except the bird. So if I look at the mask, under mask options, it's showing me that the bird isn't masked, but everything around the bird is. And so the effect was being applied. The effect is being applied to the scene itself.
All right, V, I have a question. So
Clearly-
when you use the radial, if you notice on his head, there was a little bit of red that it would apply. So can you then also use the brush to brush just off the top of his head?
Good.
Erase it?
So, you know what? I bet you guys are thinking I'm paying her to help out with this. She
No,
knows the answer.
these are things I want to know.
Oh, I thought you knew the answer. I thought you were messing with me.
No, so I
here
know
it
that I
is.
can, but I didn't know if I started with
Yes.
radial, if I could then use the brush.
Perfect. So if you do start with, doesn't matter what you start with, right?
All right.
If I click on the brush tool, now I can say, okay, look, you know what? Erase this area here. I apologize. Look at that.
Huh.
There we go.
Interesting.
And let me get back to my brush. There we go. So get rid of the showing. So now you're able to do it now. And by the way, while we're here, why don't I do this? I am going to take the mask and I want to reset the tool. All right. Now let's come back again. Let's go overboard like we did. Now, if I use Mask AI, I haven't done it on this image, so this is going to be interesting to see. Mask AI is going to analyze the image. It's going to look for architecture, shrubs. Let's say if a person were in the scene, it look for a person. So let's look at natural ground. So that's what it's looking at. Let's say floral. So in this scene here, Mask AI isn't ready. Well, not ready. It doesn't recognize animals yet. If this were a person, it would recognize a person. But in this case here, instead of using Mask AI, I would come back here to radial and do what we did, earlier. So in that case, Mask AI wouldn't help us. But typically, Mask AI is phenomenal at helping out. All right. So there we have it. All right, before I run out of battery, are there any other questions you guys want to shoot my way?
I have
Are
one
you
I have
there?
one that's not specific to this, but I had put it in the chat at the coffee break and don't know if it got answered because I got called into a meeting. When you were doing your sports grit presentation, do females like the sports grit? Do they like it but
Oh,
tone
God,
it down
yes.
a little?
But so we did the sports grit look where everything was gritty. But for the females, what I do is I bring back the skin softening huge, because then it takes away that grit on their face,
Yeah.
and the rest of the scene just looks intense.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Well, guys,
Great.
thank you so much, for having me here. Let me stop sharing my screen. There we go. Thank you guys so much. And Jim, thanks for inviting me to this. And here's what's really neat. If you have any questions whatsoever, you can join us on Coffee Break, which is right now it's Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 1 p.m. Eastern time, or just shoot me an email, vanelli@skylum.com. If you have questions and that you're unsure of, I can help you guys out.
By the way, can I just mention something, Vanelli, about this program?
Yep.
I'm always a big believer in right tool, right job. And obviously all these different programs do things slightly differently, but for those who've never used this program, one of the advantages of this particular one is if you don't have a vision particularly in mind yet, you're not really sure where you want to go. The way it's laid out and the way it does colorizing and so on is very different than what you would do in a Lightroom or a Photoshop. So if you had a beautiful sunset, but the colors were a little drab, there's one section in this program where it's literally one slider. You just move it, and all of a sudden, all these colors come out, and it does all of that automatically. It's not that you can't do it in the other programs, but sometimes these things will push you in a direction you said, boy, that's really a neat direction. I'm glad I could do this with one slider. And that's where I think this program has some real advantages if you get stuck on an image and you don't really know where to push it.
Perfect. And the comparison I gave was like the auto tool or the auto mode in your camera. You know, if you're in a tricky lighting situation, don't hesitate to put it in auto mode or aperture priority. Take the shot, look at your camera, and then read the settings. And then from there, you can dial them in manually if you want to. But for the love of God, don't ever let a professional photographer ever say to you, you know, an instructor, you're not a pro if you don't shoot manual. Garbage. You know, I'll put it in auto mode if I'm uncertain about something. I mean, and it's so funny, by the way, those particular people that say that, watch them do the behind the scenes photos. They'll use their phone. And then I'll say to them, hey, instead of using your phone, here, use my camera. Well, wait, I mean, the lighting's tricky. Oh, okay, well, you used your phone because your phone automatically does it for you and automatically does HDR, and you get decent behind the scenes shots with a phone. So, like I said, don't embrace, you know, what the camera manufacturer have done with that auto. But again, yes, I do shoot manual. I just dial in those settings. All right.
Great. Well,
guys,
thank you, Vanelli, for coming. We really appreciate it. It's always great to have somebody who knows their program so well, and Luminar Neo can do so much that it's nice to have somebody who knows just how it works. Show it off.
And your camera club is on Skylum's radar as one of our. We're trying to adopt so many different camera clubs across the country. So if there's things you ever need in the future, you know, door prizes and things like that, please let us know, because Skylum is creating a list, and we're working on helping out the camera clubs education-wise. All right.
Okay, great. We'll keep that in mind, because WACO, or Wisconsin Area Camera Club Organization, has a lot of camera clubs in it. So we'll pass that along to everybody, and we're glad you could come and show up.
And I can't wait to start doing this in person again.
Yep.
You know, go on a little shoot together and then go back. In fact, we're doing that in Iceland coming up next week. And this is how much of a wimp I am. I had my top down and it was 69 degrees. I had the heater full bore and the heated seats on, and I pulled over and said, I put the top back up. It was too cold. So imagine what's going to happen in Iceland.
V, it's like 65 degrees here, and I've got all my house windows wide open.
Yeah.
Oh, man. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. I have to go around and apologize to some of the people I said to when we were interviewing.
Well, we understand, and thank you for coming. It's really great to have you show off Neo and all that, and hopefully we can get you back on again one of these days too.
Got it. Well, thanks again, everyone.
Vanelli, do you still have a trial that you can do with Neo?
Yeah, I'm so sorry. Yeah, so if you go to skylum.com, you can download a 14-day trial. And then you always still have the 30-day try it. If you buy it, try it for 30 days. If it's everything you thought it would be, you keep it. If it's not, no questions asked, and they replace it or refund it. All right.
All right. Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Well, thank you. You have a good weekend.
Bye, V.
Great. It's great to be able to get him on for a short time and talk about Neo. It looks like a very good program. I got to admit, I haven't tried Neo yet, so I sort of stopped at AI.
He does run a daily show that you can tune into at noon. I think they're going to be cutting it back to 3 times a week.
They did. That's the Monday, Wednesday, Thursday now.
Yeah, he's actually a phenomenal photographer, and his contacts are amazing. I mean, anytime you bring up somebody else and you say, oh, what about Ben Wilmore? Oh, yeah, I introduced him to his wife. I mean, he knows everybody. So he's good to watch, in that he'll give you ideas of what to do with your photos that maybe you didn't think of before. So it is worth watching periodically if you've got nothing to do on a noontime. And we can see if I can try and get a link for people, and we can send it out too if anybody wants to tune in.
Yeah, I used to have the link for coffee break. I probably need to look that up again, and we can send it out or put it on the Wacko website, because I was doing it for a while and then I ran out of time where I wasn't around at that time of day. Because it was going 5 days a week. That was getting a little hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's an odd time. I mean, they do it partially because there's really no great time to do it, but there are a lot of people from Europe that also tune in. So they'll get people from England or Scotland or Ireland, and obviously their time zones are 6 to 8 hours different. So they try to pick a time where at least it's reasonable for most people to tune in. But again, noon is a tough time for us.
Yep. Although, hey, you eat lunch, you can sit and watch. That's what I used to do, except my lunch hour now goes from 1 to 2. So messed that up. But
I try to watch at my desk at work. It's hard on a little phone, but I have it running in the background.
Yeah. It's a great place. I know you can ask a lot of questions, and although they do have a lot of people that show up, so they don't always get to all the questions, but
they also have been bringing on a lot of interesting photographers. So Joe Edelman was on not too long ago. There was a woman who does stuff for National Geographic and some other things, and she was talking about how to do presentations or even sell your stuff to different groups. And so sometimes you get a lot of different people that'll come on one day a week. You'll usually do that. And you get to see other photographers doing work as well. So again, that may not be for everybody, but if it's something you're sitting around at noon, you go, oh, whatever, you could tune in and see if it's free.
The special guests are on Thursdays. Boy, I sound like a fanboy, but but it's the only software I really use. So
Steve, you have a question?
Do you use it as a standalone or as a plugin?
The answer is both.
I know
it
that,
will
but
do both, but let me tell you, coming out of Lightroom, it's a little trickier because this program likes to use the raw. And generally the way Lightroom hands stuff off, it hands it off as a PDF
TIFF.
or a TIFF.
Mhm.
So there is a way to get it to hand it off as a raw and do your work, and it will come back. It's just a little different. So if you ever get to that point, I can show you that, but the answer is yes, both. And then I usually do it as a handoff. I usually kind of stay in Lightroom, and then I send stuff into it and then send things back to Lightroom, because that's where my library is.
Yeah.
You know, they have a library function. It's not as complete as Lightroom, and that's why I really wouldn't have converted over.
So I use it, and I didn't, Jim, if you can tell me how to hand it off as a raw, I would appreciate that. But so I use it from Lightroom and just do my TIFFs, and I don't have any, I mean, I'm not missing anything that I've been able to tell so far, editing wise, by starting with the TIFF. But if you can tell me how to do it from raw at some point.
Yes, and TIFF editing, by the way, is great because TIFF is about as close to raw as you can get. So it's not a problem if you hand off something as a TIFF. So if it's working for you, for the most part, that's not a big deal. The only thing is you can't, in most programs, I don't think people really are aware that when you open up anything as a raw photo, because it's literally just data, it's not a picture, it's just numbers. A program has to apply to it some kind of a look. And and the looks can be like your camera. When you take pictures, you've probably noticed that you can set up different looks within your own camera. Well, that has to be applied to it. The reason for this program like Neo trying to take a raw is that it can apply over the top a way to look at your picture, because every time you apply a way to look at it, colors change slightly or contrast changes slightly. And that's true, like with our cameras, you usually have like a regular way of looking at it, then there might be a nature way of looking at it or a portrait way of looking at it. Well, anyway, if you're in Lightroom, if you didn't know it, that's being applied in the background. You can change that, but it's there. And Neo would like to get your raw photo because it would like to apply different starting points to get you your best pictures. So anyway, that's, sorry for that long explanation, but maybe
Okay,
that'll
thanks.
help so that you know what it's doing.
I was just curious how most of you would use it. So, okay.
It works both ways. And as I say, I use it as a plugin. I have used it by itself, but I don't actually see much difference either. Sort of like Elizabeth, it's like, just hand it off, let it go in there, do its thing and bring it back. So.
Yeah, well, Jim, you were talking, I did go, and Coffee Break is on YouTube for Skylum. So if you just go to Skylum Software and you can subscribe to their YouTube feed. I know there's also a link to the Coffee Break that they just have a regular Zoom meeting, I believe, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that's live where you can ask your questions.
Right, right. So I'll drop in the YouTube one. I don't have the one for signing up for the Coffee Break. I'll have to do some research.
I know.
Elizabeth,
Oh,
you
here,
have that
wait.
link?
I have to go in through Mighty Networks to get
I
to.
think I can. I'll try and get it here. It always takes me a second because I'm on a small laptop. I always have to kind of move all of this stuff for this meeting out of the way and see if I can get it. But I think I can get it here in just a minute.
Yeah, I'm not. I
Oh,
used to subscribe and I don't get it. I don't remember how I even found this subscription, but
I think you're going to have to go to mightynetworks.com and then you sign up and you pick Luminar Insiders, because I just went there and signed in and it just says, we'll email you the links to the networks I have access to. So I think you have to go to mightynetworks.com, create an account, and then search on Luminar Insiders and sign up for those. And then you get into the actual.
yeah. Yeah, I knew there was some couple of different ways, and I would imagine there might be a way in Skylum itself too to
Could be.
find it.
Yeah.
But I'm working on a small screen that I have left to be able to search, and I got too many things running on my computer right now. But I'll try to, if we don't find it shortly, we'll try to get that emailed out in the next email that I put out for next month. But otherwise, if you check at skylum.com, that's where you can buy the Luminar Neo and try it out. And I would imagine there probably is a spot on their website to find their coffee break.
Yeah, so the one thing that V didn't cover is that Skylum is now coming out with what they're calling, God, what are they called, Jim? My mind just went blank.
Different
like the
modules,
HDR merge. What are they calling those, Jim? You're muted.
Yeah, sorry, I had I pulled this screen down so I could find that stupid link, and I'm working on it. Yeah, they're like side applications they're adding in.
Yeah, I can't think of what
they're for them though, and I forgot what
I think they're expansion packs.
Yes,
is what they're
so now you can get those, and the first one that they released was an HDR program. Then they did a noiseless AI program, which I haven't tried, but I've heard is great. Focus stacking is coming out, but they've got 7 slated for this year and then a couple more so far early next year. So they're putting all of that. Now, some of them like the HDR merge, and I'm assuming the focus stacking, you cannot get to from within Lightroom because that starts out in their catalog versus in their editing software. And you can go in and just open your photos and still use it. You just can't get there from Lightroom easily. I'm not going to lie. I'm just going to say easily. I don't want to know the whole big complicated workaround because I know there is one. So they're putting all these expansion packs out and they've got a whole bunch of them coming. But they're trying to make Neo an all-in-one kind of editing.
Yeah, it sounds like they're doing that for a lot of the programs. So Yeah, Luminar Neo is $89 a year for the first year, and then renews at $109 a year. You can buy a lifetime of Luminar Neo for $109.
Yeah, that does not include expansion packs.
No, and then expansion packs are $219 for 2022's extension packs.
Right, which
they
should be
have.
7 of them.
Yeah. So.
And I just pulled up their .com page here, and they got 3 offers here. One is for 1 license for 1 computer. That's $658 a month, but that doesn't include the extensions. The Neo, which includes all the extensions and 2 licenses, it's $9.08 a month. And then they have the one-time lifetime thing that's 119, it says here. So, or you can buy the extension pack for $269, I guess. So,
Yeah,
And I believe once they've all been released, so when they've released all of the 2022 ones, you will be able to go in and buy the expansion packs individually. So you're just buying the ones you actually want and use. Right now, they're not separating them out. Once they are all released, so in 2023, you'd be able to just purchase the ones you want.
You know, I think this is one of those programs where if you were thinking about it, it would be worth getting the 14-day trial thing and just throwing some photos in and working your way. What you'll see when you hit the edit button, there's a list of things to do to your photos, starting at the top, working your way down. And that's a really good way to start, by starting at the top and working your way down. And every time you click on one of those things to do, it will open up with other things inside of it. But a lot of their presets, I shouldn't say presets, I'm sorry, the auto features work really well. And you can just kind of work your way down that list. And then you'll see things that you wouldn't necessarily want to do. Like sometimes they'll have ways of developing a photo to give it a more grungy look. Well, that may not be for you for, let's say, landscape. So then you don't do that and that kind of thing. So you work your way down the list, but it's worth taking a look at. And again, it's sort of what I said before, it's right tool, right job. I don't use it for everything, but there's times I can't get colors and things quite the way I wanted. And this program is very helpful.
Yeah, or it's a good substitute for Lightroom and Photoshop as being an all-in-one separate standalone system.
The only thing I will say, and I'm, you know, for those people who've been around and sort of understand Photoshop, when you have heavy lifting to do where there's really something wrong with the photo or something has to be removed, or you see something that you really want to get rid of, there's still no substitute for Photoshop doing really intense changes to your photos. But if you don't have that very often, then you don't need all of that stuff. Then those programs are really maybe not for you.
Yep. Yep. And it takes some learning to be able to do some of that fancy stuff in Photoshop, which Luminar Neo is more for somebody that just wants to click and have a lot of it done for you, which is great. It makes it simpler for everybody. Except for us people that have to put rules together for competitions. Because
well, you know, the one thing they were known for was they do sky substitutions better than any program I know of. So if you just say, I want to change out a sky, there's a section for that in there. And then they give you a bunch of skies, but you can use your own skies. But it was so advanced, it was putting reflections in water. It would change the color casting so that if the sky was more red, it would make your photo more red. So it mimicked the sky. It was doing all of that in the background. And even as of today, Photoshop still hasn't caught up to that, which to be honest, I'm kind of surprised.
Yeah, well, the nice part is these programs are pushing Photoshop and Lightroom to get better, and actually their latest release in Lightroom and Photoshop of the new masking and sky replacement stuff that they just added has really made a difference. So it's forcing Photoshop or Adobe to improve their products faster. And we'll probably, no, I don't know, maybe next month or for the December where we won't meet, I'll probably do a new demonstration of all the new features in Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw that they just added, because they added a whole bunch of masking that's just amazing right now. So
yeah, and not only
yeah.
have they added some things, but now I'm watching more and more people who are really pushing these programs in ways I'd never seen before. And I was watching Adobe just did Adobe Max week or a couple of days, I guess, where they had different instructors come on. And I saw some guys pushing colors in ways I had never thought of doing. And I've been using those programs for years. But when I see what they do, it's absolutely brilliant stuff for the right photos. It's amazing. But it's using things like calibration and other color tools that I never would have expected to use in that way. And it really makes a difference.
Yep. Yep. So we'll be exploring some of that stuff in Photoshop and Lightroom in future things coming up. We're hitting noon here, so I want to put in a couple announcements. Next month, if everything works right, and I don't have this locked down yet, but Dan Anderson will be on from Door County, talking about his drone photography. We're still working on getting his system working, so I'm meeting with him this week to see if I can get that to work. He doesn't have great internet up there, so in Door County, so it's a problem. As I mentioned, December we won't meet because that is Christmas Eve, and it's just not a good day to have a meeting, I don't think. So I will be pre-recording hour or so video on stuff that people can watch at their leisure in December. It will be both on YouTube and on the Wacko website. So as it is, the November meeting falls on the same weekend as Thanksgiving, but hopefully by then you're coming out of your turkey comatose period and be willing to watch some interesting stuff, hopefully from Dan Anderson. If not from him, then I'll be doing something probably on Lightroom. So with that, if we don't have anything else,
I did put in what I think is the Skylum link. It'll get you to a page where it just says, click to go to Zoom, if I'm not mistaken. I hope that's the right link, but it will only work, of course, on the days that they're on. And since now they're cutting down to 3 days a week, if you went in on a day when they're not on, obviously at noon, you won't see anything.
Yeah. Jim, you sent that just to the host and panelists. Can you,
that's odd, isn't it? Let's see if
I can. Oh, here, I can copy it and I'll send it to everybody.
And again, I hope that's the right link. I mean, again, when I'm working on this laptop, I can't do 2 screens at once and I can never set it up to see it. So I have to go off to other screens to do it. But I think it's going to work. I
don't think that's it. That took me, that you put the digital synopsis out there a second time.
Oh, well then never mind. I'll get it to you and then we can send it out.
Yeah. We'll figure it out. Otherwise, if you can go to YouTube and watch, it's on their YouTube channel as well. So when we find it out, I'll send it out to the one email that we sent out.
By the way, it looks like I have 2 emails. I mean, sorry, 2 addresses up there. And I think the second one where it starts HTTP, I think that's it. Because otherwise it goes to the first digital synopsis first. But I think it's the second one where it starts out skylum.zoom.us. I think that's
I don't even see that link from you.
Oh, you don't see that?
No.
Because it's a long address and maybe it only sent out one of them.
I see way,
When
way
you
up at
click
the
on
top,
well, let
you
me
did-
try this.
way at the top, you did the first digital synopsis.
Yeah, that's my
Then you
fault.
did a second one, and down way further, you did I have another digital synopsis.
Okay, never
Okay.
mind. It's not showing the whole thing. I'm sorry, as I say, this laptop is a little harder to do, and I can't see everything at the same time and copy the same way that I would.
Let me
So-
see if I got it copied, maybe.
So for those who are still listening, if you go to coffee break, it kind of follows a format where we kind of chit chat for a few minutes, but then everyone's quiet and they do the YouTube recording, and it's always about 10 minutes on a given topic of how to do something in Luminar Neo. And then after that ends, we have this Ask Me Anything, which is just a free for all. And that usually goes for another 45 minutes or so and can be any topic, photography, editing, anything. He'll answer questions about Lightroom if he can, and Ask Me Anything is just a free for all. We ask him about his love life, it's a free for all. But the first 10 minutes or so are always a topic about how to do something in Neo, a few questions about that topic. We end it, and then we have the free for all.
I think I sent it again, and I think now it's just the Skylum one, and it appears to me that goes to the Skylum page where you
Oh,
would hit the Zoom.
Yes, launch
Yeah,
meeting.
that
That's-
one does work, except that, Jim, you just sent it to the host and panelists.
I
So,
can't change that, but I can't change that for some reason, and I don't know if that's
all right.
how I've
Yeah,
entered.
I'm copying it and I'll send it to everybody here. Just
Yeah.
a second. There, that went to everybody.
Good. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, and I did just try it and it does take me to the Zoom page.
And then I
I'm
think
not
if you
sure.
hit, enter Zoom, again, it'll try to enter, but today, since nobody's on there, you won't.
Yeah.
get in, so.
Yeah, and I don't know. I think they just do a regular Zoom meeting. I don't think they do a webinar. So,
correct.
Right.
so that will get you there, and hopefully it will do it. So, want to thank everybody for coming. We had 32 people at the biggest quantity, so that was pretty good for an awful nice sunny day out. So thanks for coming. We'll see you next month in November. I'll let you know by then whether we get Dan Anderson or not from Door County. And we'll go from there. And of course, nothing in December. and January, we'll be starting working on a whole bunch of new lineups for next year. So going to have quite a few different people on. So thanks
right.
everybody
Thanks,
for coming,
Jeff.
and we'll
And thanks,
see you
Jeff,
next
for putting
month.
this on again. Thanks.
No,
Bye,
no
everyone.
problem.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Thanks a lot.
We'll see you.